insofar as moving to India, people think there's a lot more going on in India than there is. Um, Basically the twin forces catalyzing Apple assembly of iPhones and some other products in India is basically tariffs. It's a strategy of tariff avoidance. So Narendra Modi put tariffs on products, specifically cell phones coming from China back in, I think, 2015, 2016. And this was around the time when Apple kind of realized that their market position in China was probably peaking. They weren't really going to get beyond 1 out of 5 smartphones sold in the country, but their market share in India was 1%, perhaps less. And so there was a thinking of basically we could grow our market share to be about 20% because India is catching up. Their GDP is growing 7% a year. It's the next great middle class. Of course, now today they got 1.5 billion people. So Apple was beginning to see India as the next great place for us to do things. But because of the tariffs that Modi had put on China, you had to assemble the products in India if you were going to actually sell them, right? I mean, they're already out of the, I talked to an Indian analyst once who said if you surveyed people on the street, 9 out of 10 would say they would love to have an iPhone, but fewer than 1 out of 10 would be able to afford it. And so if you're adding 20% tariff from China onto that price that's already out of the league of 90% of people or whatever, then that was obviously not going to be good. Okay, couple that with Trump 2.0 tariffs on China going to the American market, that's not going to fly either. So there's been sort of compounding reasons to move production to India so that phones going to America aren't hit with the China tariffs. The irony is that India, I believe today, actually has a higher tariff than China does from Washington's perspective. So this is
that's the stage of negotiation the two are at. That's right.
yes.
Where
Although
is your guess?
it's 50%, but I think
Better than
it's
mine.
the case now that now that Tim Cook has been to the White House that there's an exemption, a carve out for Apple because they're demonstrating a commitment to building in America. So I mean, I think the way Trump negotiates is very mafioso. Here's a rule, but you're carved out because we like you. I mean, that's not really the way the country's supposed to work, but that's how it's working right now. And Apple's sort of having to fit within that paradigm. But anyway, so going back to the production, which is the wrong word, in India, really what we're seeing is assembly. So if you think it takes 1,000 steps to build an iPhone, the fact that the final step is now being done in India, that's just enough for there to be a quote unquote substantive change to the product, which for legal rules allows you to therefore say made in India, stamp it, put it in a box and send it to America without the China tariff. So that's the logic. But people think there's a lot more production going on in India than there is. And I've talked to some of the engineers who are in India.
This, I mean, the optimistic side, the golden retriever side of you,
Yeah.
you see this as the starting point of something bigger,
Yeah.
or do you feel?
Yeah, so not to be unfair, you do have to start somewhere. However, we're talking about investments in India in terms of assembly that go back to 2017. And so what's really nice about that date is that it's 1 decade after the original iPhone was being built in China. So just to give some sort of, irrefutable numbers, you go from 0 iPhones in 2007, right, ramping up to 5 million or so in China, to I think 150 million or so by 2014, right? If you just sort of take that same chart and put it to iPhones made in India, you go from 0 in 2017, right, to the start, to around 15 million by 2024. So in other words, the rate of iPhone production in India was happening at 1/10 the rate that it was happening in China. And even that vastly overstates what was going on in India because everything was going on in China, right? They weren't just doing the final assembly. They were taking components, to be fair, from around the world, but also doing a whole lot of the plastic injection molding, the metal stamping, the quality test and control. All that was happening in China. And this was at a time when the phone was changing dramatically, when, smartphone touch glass was being invented, quite frankly. And so to say that, so I'm just saying the comparison between the depth and breadth of everything that was going on in China in the first 10 years of the iPhone versus what's happening in India, honestly, it's just not very comparable. So I'm a huge advocate of Apple moving, heaven and earth to build things in India. The mistake people make is to think that that's already happening because they look at how many phones are quote unquote assembled in India and then sent off. An assembly doesn't mean you've severed your dependence on China at all. Everything's already sub-assembled by the time it gets to Karnataka or Tamil Nadu, and then it's put together.
Correct. No, so no, absolutely. I think so. So now the next question then becomes, for a country like India and for a company like Apple, given the experience it's had in China, right? So, first question, what lessons should Indian political and business leaders be drawing from the way things have panned out between Apple and China to say, okay, we don't want to just assemble, we also want to get into some of the higher or deeper, rather, pieces of the iPhone production. How
Yeah.
would you suggest or advise Indian political and business leaders to play it, given the
So
current circumstances?
I strongly hope that governors and mayors within places like Tamil Nadu and Karnataka are studying the rise of Shenzhen and thinking about what they can do. I think India should be doing everything it can to attract Apple and other companies, because Western companies that are embedded
What
in
are
China.
those things? So, right, you mentioned Shenzhen. They should study Shenzhen. So,
So
let's
tax
clear it
exempt
out.
phones, right? So I mean, I've talked to some Indian officials about this, right? And their concern is that when they sort of are talking about this publicly, it's like there's a backlash, because it's like, why are we giving money to these foreigners, right? Why aren't we spending on our own domestic programs? And I totally understand that. But if you've got the sort of right language to explain it, it's like, if we lure in this capital, they will provide not just jobs, but training and education programs. I mean, Apple basically opened vocational schools and trained hundreds of thousands of people through the last 20 years, right? English is a second language. I mean, things like that. They were working in combination with Pearson, the education company, and Foxconn to get that stuff done. So like the ripple effect, if you will, of having Apple in your country, I think is hard to underestimate. And all you need to do is look at the rise of China, specifically 4 or 5 different places in China where their manufacturing is paramount, and recognize what they did to do that, and then try your best to replicate it. Now, maybe replicate is the wrong word, because for a whole host of reasons about what China can offer versus what India can offer, I'm sure there's a bunch of adaptations that you would have to introduce. There's certain things, for instance, that I would not advocate that India introduce, in terms of how they have a dual citizenship structure within China, where people are discriminated against at the state level, that Apple, frankly, exploits. So I wouldn't want to see everything replicated, but no, I absolutely think that India should be doing everything they can. Now, where it's going to be difficult is that China is just masterful at this. I mean, compare the high-speed rail with between various cities in China with the rail capacity and speeds in India. I mean, a lot would need to be done if you're really going to rival that. And you could say the same thing. Compare the ports of India with the ports of China. There's a lot to be done. And you can't expect Apple to do that stuff. Apple can do stuff within the factory, but
Right.
who's building the 8-lane highways from the factory to the ports? That's got to be incentivized at the local level in India to make that happen. So there just needs to be a hell of a lot of coordination. Now, here's the thing. As much as I'm supportive of that, you have to take into account that Beijing doesn't want to see any of that.
That's
Right?
right.
Beijing
It's not going to
wants
sit idle
technology.
correct. As business is taken away, it's not going to sit idle. Correct.
Yes, and so where you should maybe not draw lessons, for instance, is that Samsung used to build a lot of products in China, and now they largely do not. But there's no lesson there, because Samsung used to have 20% market share in smartphones in China, and now they have less than 1%. So when they needed to move their production to Vietnam, to Argentina, et cetera, to India, there was no risk of a consumer backlash. The Chinese consumers weren't buying their phones in the first place. Apple has a $70 billion business in China. So the more that Apple is seen as the poster child of de-risking from China, the worse it is for their relationship with Beijing, and the worse it is for their 100 million consumers in China. So I don't want to propose something that's totally unrealistic. I would really like India to be making these, making itself attractive to Apple. But the reason why I call Apple captured is that it's not intuitive that they can actually just respond to what India offers and move things, because the more they move, the more problematic it is with Beijing. But the less they move, the more stuck they are.